I've been co-owner of my concrete company for 8 years now, and we've grown it from $0 to $4 million a year. But the even cooler part is going from working 65 hours a week to now just focusing on management. I have an office manager that handles clients and scheduling, a project manager that runs the jobs, and I have 2 estimators that sell projects. And I don't say any of that to brag, but the biggest lever for that growth has been learning how to raise our prices. Because if you want to afford great marketing, hire solid support staff, and actually grow your business, then you have to know how to charge more than the competition. So in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly how I learned to do it in my own company so you can learn how to do it too. All right, and disclaimer for all you impatient people, in the very first half of the video, I will be going over mindset stuff. In the second half of the video, I'll be going over more tactical, and both are just as important. So I highly recommend watching the whole thing. So the first thing is you feel too guilty. And so when I first started, I actually talked crap about the competition. I was about like $6 to $7 a square foot, which keep in mind, this was 8 years ago, but I was still considered one of the cheaper contractors. And when a contractor would bid, say $10 a square foot, I would literally talk so much crap about that. I was like, man, you're such a bad guy. What a crook. You should go to jail. I thought they were just bad people. But then over time, right, we built our brand on being around that price. And I remember 2 years later, I went through my first 2 years in business. I was not even making money for myself. So, all the way back to what we were talking about in the very beginning with having support staff, that wasn't even in my mind. I just wanted to not go out of business. I was working tons. At that point, I'd done $2 million worth of concrete work. I literally didn't have any money. And I remember I went and I met up with a friend, and he was like talking to me, and he's like, well, dude, you have like this huge mental hurdle. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you talk crap about all the people that charge expensive. And I was like, yeah, because they're crook. And he's like, here's the thing, man. You feel guilty about your customers. You feel bad for your customers. You feel bad for what you're doing to them. He's like, do you ever think, are you able to take very good care of your employees? And I was like, no. And he's like, are you able to take very good care of your family? And I was like, no, not really. And he's like, here's the thing. You need to switch your guilt from feeling guilty for your customer to feeling guilty for your employees and for your family. And I remember that moment so vividly because it was so weird because in my mind, our customers, by the way, don't care about our feelings. How many times you guys get when someone's like, they'll just rip your company. Wow, you're expensive. You're this, you're that. Your company sucks. Granted, that doesn't happen very much, but people rip you all the time. So if you're gonna feel guilty for anyone, feel guilty for not being able to provide a great life for your employees and for the people around you. And it starts by raising your prices, right? Because that's step one. Is if you feel guilty about raising your prices, then you're never gonna do it. But switch that guilt to the family. Another mindset thing is you might feel guilty or feel weird about raising your prices if you don't actually know all of your numbers, right? And specifically with your overhead. Because back in the day when I didn't know my overhead and I was like, man, I just wanna make like $500 to $1,000 a day. And I thought I was gonna be rich, right? I thought it was so greedy to ask for more money than. But I remember when I learned all about my numbers, right? All of a sudden I was like, I actually budgeted for my equipment, my marketing, I budgeted my fuel, my insurance, like all the stuff. I put it all together. And when I finally put it all together, I realized that I was never gonna make charging what I was charging. And so if you know your number, you can be so much more confident when you talk to people about your numbers, because not only do you remove the guilt, but you have so much more confidence just presenting your numbers, knowing that it's actually like what you need to charge to make a real profit versus guessing. Because here's the thing is you're never gonna be able to sell jobs if you're not confident, and you're never gonna be able to be confident in something that you're totally just making up. All right, now we'll get to some of the more tactical stuff. If you literally cannot raise your prices because you will go out of business, then you are probably in the vicious pricing cycle. So what the vicious pricing cycle is and why it's a literal cycle is because you might be in a certain situation where if you raise your prices, then all of a sudden you're not gonna sell enough work and you'll go out of business, right? You won't have enough work for all your crews, you'll have equipment payments, so you won't be able to make the payments. It'll be a huge disaster. And here's why the vicious pricing cycle affects you. Essentially, if you start at a certain level and you're not making money here, your next most logical step is to take on more work. So you're gonna take on more work. Well, the problem is when you take on more work and you're still basically pricing unprofitably, well, now all of a sudden you have more clients. And as you have more clients, you're gonna have phone calls that are missed. You're gonna have details that are missed. So all of a sudden your service is going down. Next thing that you know, your guys are messing up on job site. They're making tons of mistakes. And all of a sudden your product starts going down. So your reputation is going down, your product's going down, and your service is going down, which is then hurting your ability to close more deals in the future and basically charge a higher price in the future, which is why it's called a vicious pricing cycle. Because the longer that you stay in it, the worse your reputation is, and your business basically falls apart from the scene. We have 3 options to get through that. Let's just go through them one by one. And the first one is you just need a way to get more leads. And so think about it, right? If you're in the vicious pricing cycle, you already don't have money. And so it's very frustrating if someone's like, dude, just spend money on marketing. And you're like, I can't, I'm freaking broke. Like, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to pay my guys this Friday. Like, you think I'm gonna dump money in marketing when I have no money? So you have a couple options. Number one, you could literally just take out blind faith and go get a loan, or you can loan money from family. Because essentially what you need to be able to do, let's just say if you're closing 40% close rate at your current prices, and you know that you have to raise your prices. Essentially what you can do is just take out a loan or get money, and you have to have faith that you spending money in marketing is gonna lead to more opportunities, which then you will be able to close less of a percentage on your deals, a lower close percentage, but the deals that you do close will actually be at a much higher profit percentage, which then you'll basically be able to use and pay off your loan and try to break out of that cycle. That's option one. It's very risky. By the way, in these cycles, what you have to realize is there's always the chicken or the egg. Someone's like, well, man, I can't afford marketing. It's kind of like what comes first, right? The chicken or the egg. Well, this, we for sure know what comes first is you have to break the cycle. So if you want it, you either need to increase your marketing, which we're talking about right now, or the other three options. So you could take out a loan. If you don't want to take out a loan and you don't want to do that, you could just do the old fashioned way, right? You might have to spend 2 months, and you could literally call your friends, call your wife, call everyone you know, and say, I will not be existent for the next 2 months. I'm sorry. And what you're gonna go do is you have to go out and get leads the old-fashioned way. You might have to cold call. You might have to go door to door. You might have to go to networking. You might have to call other contractors and ask if they have extra work. You have to get more lead flow. So either you're gonna do that through sweat equity, or you have to pay for it. Those are basically your two options if you want to increase leads, and that's how you want to break the cycle. All right, so that's one of the ways you could break the vicious pricing cycle. Or another way is by fixing your sales process, right? Because essentially, if you can't get more lead, then what you need to be able to do is close the same amount of jobs at a higher price. In the past, I didn't even think that this was possible. But recently, we've even tweaked our sales process, and I'll give you guys a couple quick tips on how you could basically close more deals at a higher price from the same amount of leads. Number one is speed to lead. Like, if you guys only understood that literally calling your leads right away was the most important thing that you can do in your business. Like, think about it. Like, a lot of you guys are like, oh, I'm too busy to call my leads. It's like, what a stupid excuse. If someone had your wife or your mom at gunpoint, and they're sitting there at gunpoint, and they said, I will literally kill your mom if you don't call your leads back in under a minute. I promise you, all of your leads that you ever got, you would call back. Like, I cannot express how important speed is when it comes to calling your leads, but not just calling your leads, also responses. Let's just say if someone has a question and they call you back and they've been considering it, well, you need to get back to them right away. So increasing your speed, as silly as it sounds, you will literally sell more work from the same amount by changing nothing else, just by acting with speed. Number two, availability. And it's so funny how so many contractors, they're like, I work Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, and that's it. Well, it's like, guess what? So do your customers. How do you expect them to buy from you if you're working when they're working? It's really crappy. But if you want to sell more work, you could literally sell more from your existing lead volume, the existing people that call you, if you increase your availability. Nights during the week, weekends, getting out there fast. If someone calls you on a Friday night, I'll say, I'll be there in the morning to bid your job, right? Being more available. You will be able to basically fit more people into your calendar. And because you're meeting people when it's convenient for them, they're going to be more in a buying mood. If someone is taking a 10-minute lunch break while they're working from home to talk to you at a bid, do you think they're really in the mood to buy from you right then? No, they're distracted. You have to talk to people when they're ready to buy, when they're in that buying mood. Let's move on to the next thing. It's confident, right? And that's part of why we were talking about the mindset stuff before, is you have to have confidence when you are pushing a number. I used to have the inability to sell jobs for a bigger number because every time I ever said a big number, my voice would shake. I'd be like, it's gonna be like 14 grand. Because I was broke. I was selling out of my own wallet. I didn't think it was possible that someone would spend $30, $50, $100,000 on concrete. They're not gonna take out a loan, by the way. They have that money just sitting in their account ready to spend with. But the thing is, if you sell out of your own wallet, one, you will never have the confidence to say a higher price. And two, when you do say it, they will never buy from you, right? Like the first thing like a rich person looks for. If someone is super scared to present to you a price, that rich person's like, this person doesn't know what it's like to serve rich people, and they will find someone else. Because what they don't want is someone who's inexperienced that doesn't know what they're doing their project. So if you want to sell to the higher price customers, then you have to be confident. You just have to understand your value, you have to understand your numbers, and you have to realize that just because you're broke, and sorry if you're not broke, you don't want to sell out of your pocket. Another thing for increasing sales is you have to have a unique selling proposition. You should be able to answer this question. If I came up to you in the street, I said, tell me why I should buy from you instead of your competition. Like in the past, when I couldn't sell jobs for a lot of money, I didn't have anything because I looked at concrete like a commodity. I looked at it literally like this barrel of oil and this barrel of oil, and there's no distinction. They're the same thing. That's what I seriously thought. So if I ever tried to ask someone for more money and I didn't have a reason why, well, why would they ever buy from me if I didn't have a reason? Just so you guys know, because I know a lot of people ask this, they say, well, what is a good USP? I do increased warranty. I always tell people how fast I'll call them back. I say every single day I respond to messages in under an hour. Like you can do it through speed, through warranty and guarantees. You can do it through reviews. You can say, oh, we've been in business for 10 years. There's so many different ways you can do that, but you need a logical reason on why someone should hire you. A couple other quick tips is you need to be presenting your prices in person. Okay, so I actually made that mistake for 7 out of the 8 years that I've been in business. I used to email estimates. We literally saw like a 40% increase in close rate just by presenting the estimate in person. So if you want, I have some other videos that I'll link down below that you guys can check out on that. And another big thing is offering financing. Okay, I recently partnered up with a company called WiseTac. I have no affiliation to them. That's just who I use inside my concrete company. So if you want to offer financing for your customers, I'll leave a link to that down below. All right, and your last option is to make a very hard decision and literally just scale back your company. I've had to do this multiple times, and it's probably the hardest thing that I have to do. If you're stuck in a business and you're literally just operating your business for your employees, you'll never grow, and one day you will go out of business because someone can only work 80 hours a week not making any money before they just give up, right? Because either you can increase your leads and then reduce your closing percentage so you could break out of that way. You could get better at sales. If you feel like you've exhausted those two and you have no other options, then you might literally have to decrease the size of your company. So that way, if you do increase your prices, you have to be okay with not selling as much work, and you're gonna be left with basically making an impossible decision because both of the options suck. Option A is to be stuck with a company that you hate and will never work. And option B is to fire people that literally never even made a mistake. It's terrible. But when you're in that decision, what I've had to tell myself in the past is like option A, me hating my business and us going out of business isn't gonna help anybody, right? Eventually, the whole entire ship goes down, right? Because you're already sinking. Like imagine if you're on a sinking ship and you're like, guys, like 5 of us don't die, this ship's gonna sink. Maybe that's like a really bad example, but regardless, you kind of get what I mean. It's like, well, what's the option? We want the whole ship to die, or some people are just gonna have to be sacrificed. And of course, it's not that dramatic because people could get new jobs, okay? Every single time that I've ever done that, at the end of it, it's going through, it's terrible. But at the end of it, I'm always so thankful because here's the thing. You get to do 2 things. Number 1 is you get to do a hard reset in your business and you get to start changing things that you didn't like, right? In the past, it's almost like a hard reset, a fresh start, and you can kind of restart. I've heard tons of people that have done that. The other thing is when I've actually cut staff, I mean, who am I gonna cut, right? Who are you gonna cut? If you have 5 people and you have to cut 2, are you gonna cut your 2 best people or your 2 worst? Well, duh, your 2 worst. So what I've noticed is there's been a lot of times where I've had employees and they were not the best employees, but they also weren't terrible, so I kept them around. Every time that I've ever done that, I've also elevated basically the standard in our company because we've basically trimmed the fat over and over and over. I think I've done that like 3 or 4 times now. All I'm saying is I'm giving you permission. You are not gonna go right to the worst thing ever is not gonna happen to you if you decide that you have to basically scale your company back and bring it back to a more breathable spot so you can re-systematize, re-figure out what you're doing before you grow again. Obviously, if you do that, you don't want to do that too many times, so live and learn. Because the sad part is that all of the problems are your fault, but you can't get fired because you're the owner. So just be careful. You don't want to do that too much. Now I try not to overexpand, right? When things are going good, I don't just hire more guys because I don't want to kick off the vicious pricing cycle, but sometimes that's what you have to do. All right, guys, one quick closing statement. Just know that if you choose to change nothing from watching this business, then that is still making a decision. I've seen people get stuck in this vicious pricing cycle and basically having a crappy business for a decade or 2 decades. And you know why? Because they're like, oh, they were too scared to make a decision. They're too scared to gamble on marketing and try to go get more leads. They're too scared to change their sales process. They're too scared to say a higher number during the sale. They're too scared to fire some of their people. All I'm trying to get you guys to realize is if you don't change anything, that is a decision. So you're basically making a decision either way. Change and you have potential for upside, or don't change change and live in your current crappy situation. I'm not saying that your situation is crappy, but you get what I mean. If you're in a situation that you're not happy with and you choose to change nothing, then that is your decision. And just know that if you do that over a long enough time horizon, you're never gonna grow, you're gonna hate your business, and it's not gonna be fun. I've done it multiple times, so I'm trying to speak from experience. With that being said, I hope this video was helpful. I hope it could help you guys raise your prices. Make sure if you guys do enjoy it, leave a like, comment on the video. I'll see you in the next one.